abortions. It will instead lead to unnecessary complications and deaths from underground abortion, especially for our most marginalized communities. As it is, lack of access across California disproportionately affects communities of color, low-income communities, our trans community members, and other marginalized communities. This decision only makes it that much harder. If you have the means, you will have full autonomy of your body. You will have access to an abortion or any other reproductive health care that you need. You will get to decide when and if you start a family. But if your bank account is not large enough, you've lost the right today. This is the first time in my generation that we've lost the right to choose, especially if you're Black, brown, LGBT, immigrant, or low income. And I can't help but ask myself, who's next? What's next?
Yeah.
If there's a lesson to learn from the last 50 years is that they will not stop and we will continue to be under attack until they take away all the rights we have. And so we must fight back. California will fight and will be a refuge state for anyone across the nation seeking reproductive health care, including an abortion. We'll be a beacon of hope to ensure everyone, irrespective of their socioeconomic status, has full autonomy of their body. I am proud that I live and I serve in a state where doing what's right and being a leader for our nation is always in style. While more than half of the states have laws on the books that criminalize or otherwise restrict abortion, all these laws have not gotten a green light from the Supreme Court decision. But here in California, the California Legislative Women's Caucus is proud to work with our colleagues in the future can people please mute themselves? But here in California, the California Legislative Women's Caucus is proud to work with our colleagues in the future of Abortion Council to ensure that these rights are guaranteed in the state of California and that women and childbearing people are protected from these vile threats to their bodily autonomy through our package of 14 bills that we introduced back in January. We will do all we can and all we must to ensure that our privacy and our rights and our dignity is protected. And so while I'm still processing what this all means, for anyone out there watching, know that the Women's Caucus, we are strong, we are determined, and we will not stand down, and we are not going back. We will fight like hell, and we'll do all we can to ensure that California is a beacon of hope and that women across this nation have complete autonomy of their body and get to decide when and if they start a family. We will not be second-class citizens. We will not be going back. I want to go ahead and now introduce the Vice Chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus, Senator Nancy Skinner, for some of her comments.
Thank you, Chair Cristina Garcia, Assemblymember Cristina Garcia, who is the Chair of the Women's Caucus. I'm Senator Nancy Skinner. I am the Vice Chair of the Women's Caucus, and I'm very glad you're all here. I am pissed today. And make no mistake, this is about power. Mitch McConnell does not care about abortions. Trump does not care about abortions, but they care about power. While we have Supreme Court justices that are ideological and have the crazy belief that they should deny women this right, the Republicans who really put these justices in these positions only care about power. And our bodies are being used as pawns in that game. How can we have equality if we cannot control our reproductive futures? We have a situation now where laws will force a woman, not in California, but in other states, force a woman to carry a pregnancy to term against her will, even in the case of which she's raped or incest. And that is absolutely an abomination. Now, as my vice chair pointed out, in California, abortion is legal, but let me go further. We have an incredible array of new laws that we are working on right now that we expect the governor to sign that will do even more to protect our abortion providers, their staff, those who get an abortion. It will ensure our contraceptive rights because even contraception is at risk right now. But let me mention one thing that our voters in California will have the chance to vote on in November. And that's our Senate just approved SCA 10. That is the constitutional amendment that our pro tem Senator Tony Atkins initiated that would go on the ballot. It's approved by the Senate now. It's on its way to the Assembly. When it gets passed by the Assembly, it will then be able to go on the ballot, and voters in California will be able to explicitly secure both contraception and abortion rights in our Constitution. It will no longer be based on privacy because, as we see from this decision, Alito has stripped privacy as a right. So Californians are going to have the constitutional right to an abortion due to that amendment that voters will get to vote on in November. And with that, I want to turn it over to our Lieutenant Governor, who is also a member of our Legislative Women's Caucus, Eleni Kounalakis.
Thank you very much, Senator Skinner, and thank you to every one of the member of the Women's Caucus who have been advancing the 14 FAB bills, the future of abortion bills. We are not going to go backward in California, and we have the tools and the ability to fight to protect a woman's right to choose in our state. It is still legal here. It's going to still be legal in California so long as the women of the Women's Caucus are able to fight along with our allies to do that. The 14 future of abortion bills will protect California women and women who come here from other states seeking an abortion. And as Senator Skinner mentioned, and I'm very honored to be a co-sponsor of the bill that is going to put on the ballot the ability of the people of California to amend our Constitution to enshrine a right to contraception and to access an abortion in our state. We're going to do it because the religious right, they're going to keep coming for us, and we're going to be ready for that fight. But I want to add one more thing, and that's this, because I'm a former United States ambassador, and I worked along with Hillary Clinton and President Obama to advance democracy in the world. We talk about our democratic institutions and how important they are. The Supreme Court of the United States, with 6 members, 3 of whom were appointed by Donald Trump, have just weakened the institution of the Supreme Court. People across the country are asking, how can 6 individuals decide that they are going to strip away a right that has been protected for 50 years under our Constitution here in the United States? This will not stand. Millions of women and our male allies in this, and all people in this country, are not going to stand by and allow 6 people driven by power and politics and religious idealism to strip away our constitutional right. We are going to continue to fight for that right, and California will be a safe haven, not just for women here, but for women from any state where they are attempting to take that right away. Thank you. Madam Chair, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to send it to the next person, so I'll send it back to you.
Next, we're going to share Assemblymember Sabrina Cervantes.
Thank you, Chair Garcia, and the rest of my colleagues in the Women's Caucus for joining us today. I also join you in my capacity as Vice Chair of the California Latino Legislative Caucus and a proud member of the California LGBTQ Caucus. I'm not going to mince words here. I'm outraged. 6 unelected justices on the Supreme Court of the United States have taken away the rights to govern one's own body from millions of women and birthing people in our country, especially for those who are historically faced systemic barriers to healthcare, such as our Black, Latino, Indigenous communities, people in rural communities, immigrant people with disabilities, LGBTQ plus people, those struggling to end ends meet. Regardless of income, geographic location, every person deserves access to reproductive care without barriers or political interference. We know from history that the Supreme Court decision will not end abortions. It will simply make them dangerous in the states that outlaw abortion rights. Make no mistake, we know that people will lose their lives because of this reckless decision by the Supreme Court. As mentioned, as a proud member of the California LGBTQ Caucus, I am concerned, deeply concerned about Justice Thomas's concurring opinion, where he states that he believes the Supreme Court should revisit precedents protecting marriage equality and the right to access contraceptives. The activist majority on the Supreme Court seem hell-bent on taking away the rights of women in our LGBTQ plus community. While we may feel safe here in California, we cannot rest on our laurels. We must work to enshrine the rights to an abortion here in our great state and within our own state constitution. We cannot abandon women who do not have the luxury of living in a blue state like California. And as a mother of triplets by choice, I will keep fighting to defend reproductive freedom here in California and across the country. I urge each and every one of us to use our power, use our voice, your vote to support pro-choice representatives and policies that protect and strengthen reproductive freedom and a person's right to choose. Because as we know, these freedoms are in question. If they're in question in just one state, we cannot consider them safe in the rest of the country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Assemblymember Cervantes. Next, we're going to hear from Assemblymember Bauer-Kahan.
Well, there's so much has been said and said so poignantly and perfectly by my colleagues who have spoken already. This moment is devastating. It's devastating for women across this country and those of us who fight every day for the equality that women so rightly deserve to control their own body and control their own futures. And I want to be clear because Justice Alito in his opinion this morning said this wasn't about discrimination against women, and it absolutely is. We are being discriminated against. A right is being stripped from every single one of us to control our own futures and to control our own bodies. As the chair of the Select Committee on Reproductive Health, as a mama to a daughter, as a woman who has never known a world where I didn't control my own future and my own body, I'm fairly speechless today. But I want to thank the Future of Abortion Council. I want to thank our partners on the ground, the incredible healthcare providers who provide abortion access and reproductive healthcare to communities, and especially our underrepresented communities and communities of color, our low-income communities, every single day here in California. The advocates that advocate for them every day, who have come together to provide us with the roadmap of how we protect Californians and people across this country. As you've heard already, there's 14 bills moving that will protect Californians, that will protect those who come into our state to get access to care, as now they will have to. And it is through the partnership with the FAB Council that we were poised to do exactly what we need to do today. I also want to thank Governor Newsom.
Unreachable.
Today, he's going to sign.
Well, you're not going to pull him in off vacation.
Can somebody mute? Today, the governor is poised to sign AB 1666 that is part of the Future of Abortion Council laws. It's my bill that protects California providers, patients, and those who assist them from civil liability under laws across the country, like Senate Law 8 in Texas, that puts penalties on people who assist those in abortion. So as of today in California, we will be protected from those laws in our courts, and that is critical work. It is a piece of the work we're doing and only a small piece. There's much more to be done through this series of legislation that is moving, and it will be done in the weeks and months to come. But we are giving it, as you've heard, back to the voters in November to enshrine this right in our Constitution, and we know you stand with us, and we're excited to see you do just that on the ballot in November. But I just want to close by saying how it feels today to be a woman in America, to be a birthing person in America, and especially to listen to my colleagues of color and how it feels for this institution to have turned their back on us, to have taken this right away from us, one we have enjoyed for almost half a century. It feels really devastating, and we see you, we hear you, and we want you to know that we are fighting for you every single day in Sacramento. And lastly, I want us to just say it out loud that we call on the federal government, we call on Congress to protect abortion in the same way that we are as a state legislature. It is time for you to step up in the way we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Assemblymember Bonta speak. Mia, are you here? Is Assemblymember Bonta available?
She may be in transit still.
Okay.
Her, I might have dropped.
Okay,
So
then
we
I'm
can-
gonna transition in the meantime and have our controller Betty Yee also give some comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think all of us are filled with just a lot of emotion this morning. Not an unexpected decision, but certainly one that hits each of us personally, and I think every woman personally. I will say that it's not just about the right to abortion, which is front and center, and I'm just so proud to be a Californian today and to be among my sisters here with the Women's Caucus, because beyond the statements made today, they're already taking action to be sure that California is a place where we can guarantee abortions, not just for California women, but from women all across the country. You know, when I think about this decision, so many things just come to the surface for me, but the one thing that I have to say is that why it's personal. You know, we are a class of people here in America, women who today feel tremendously unvalued and disrespected for not being able to have the ability to make our own decisions and to have complete bodily autonomy. This is also about economic justice. This is also about healthcare justice. To not be able to determine when to have children, to think that contraceptive rights are also in danger is one that is going to set women back. And I know this is not hyperbole when I say this can be a matter of life and death, particularly for the women that our chairwoman singled out, as far as always having to catch up relative to disparities and not having the access that that other women have if you have the means. This is an economic justice issue. It's a healthcare justice issue. And we will continue to fight in California and convince, hopefully, our Congress and our Senate to take action as well at the federal level. This is a decision that will have implications for hopefully not generations to come, but we hope that this will be the fight of our generation to be sure that we will win this right back at every state, in every state of this nation. Lastly, let me just say something about the Constitution. In our generation, we have known this Constitution to provide protections, to expand rights, and not to take rights away. This makes a mockery of the Constitution. And to the chairwoman's point, what's next? Who's next? We can't allow that question to be answered, and we will fight. And beyond today, we will fight to be sure that we have our package of bills by our colleagues enacted, signed into law, to show that this is the way that we are able to protect women in California, and this will be the model for the rest of the country. So thank you to my colleagues for your leadership. I stand beside you in this fight. And this is, again, about economic justice. And we know what happens when women are missing from the economy, especially now when we have an economy that's challenged. And so I say this is every woman needs to stand up, regardless of your political ideology. This is personal to each of us. It's personal to each of our families. It's personal to the fact that when we move forward and show what we can have in store for our children and our grandchildren, and I'm thinking about my 99-year-old mother today and how she is thinking about her grandchildren not having the rights to be able to make their own decisions about their lives going forward. So I am triply in for this fight. Thank you.
Thank you to our controller. Our last speaker for our closing comments and questions will be Assemblymember Bonta. I think she's back.
Thank you so much, Chair. This is one of the darkest moments I've ever experienced in my life, and certainly, quite frankly, in the state of California and in the state of, and in the nation. I woke up today having to hug my 22-year-old daughter so tightly, knowing that she is waking up in a world and in a country where her right to her body is not something that can be protected anymore in the nation. I'm so thankful and grateful that we, as a California Legislative Women's Caucus and the state of California, have stood strong and have been very proactive in ensuring that, as we predicted, California would need to be one of the last stands for women's reproductive freedom, for childbearing people, and quite frankly, for women. As the Supreme Court has eroded our ability to have certainty in our right to privacy, in our certainty to have a right to substantive due process, and has made a mockery of all that we hold dear and have known to be what the founding of this country has been on, which is our right to be able to have ownership of our bodies and our personhood. So with that, I'm thankful that we as a caucus, we in the state of California, have been proactive and have prepared ourselves for this darkest moment, and that we will move together to ensure that women across the country are able to find sanctuary and protection, and that birthing people will have the ability to do that. But make no mistake, the Supreme Court has declared war on our bodies, and we will respond in kind, with action, with our right to vote, with exercising our ability to elect officials who will protect our right to freedom and our right to privacy and our right to our bodies. And I stand strong with our legislators, with our governor, with our attorney general, with our controller, and with the state of California to ensure that we will move forward together.
Thank you, Assemblymember Bonta. In closing, I'd like to thank every single one of our California Elected Women's Caucus member, including our constitutional officers. I want to thank the leadership of our governor, our pro tem, and our speaker who have been allies with us in this fight from day one. While today I can't help but feel like a second-class citizen yet again. I know that in California, we're going to fight like hell. We are going to ensure that this package of 14 bills gets across the finish line and gets signed, and that we are a beacon of hope and a refuge for anyone seeking reproductive health care or an abortion. And that here in California, we are all created equal. And California loves everyone out there. And so as we are moving through the many feelings we all have right now, you're feeling it through this Zoom today, as we all hold back tears and anger and frustration out there, know that we are prepared to take all these emotions and put them into action to ensure women across the whole nation have the right to choose when and if they start a family, have full autonomy of their body, and we will not stop until that is guaranteed for everybody. And so we all call on Congress to do what's right, to do what's been long overdue, and correct the injustice that has happened with today's decision. With that, I want to open it up to questions from the press.
Assemblymember Garcia?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Becca Habiger. I'm a reporter with ABC 10 News. We know there's a UCLA law study that came out this month showing that we could see up to 16,000 additional people coming to California from largely from states where there are bans or heavy restrictions in place. And that puts pressure, of course, on California's reproductive healthcare system that you could say is already strained. Can anyone in this group speak to, I know there's a bill looking at scholarships for people who would be doctors and provide abortions here in the state of California, but if anyone can speak to what is being done to address what we're anticipating in terms of an influx of people seeking reproductive health care here in California. Thank you.
Chair Garcia, I can address
that
briefly. Yeah. So we know that within a month, 26 states are poised to criminalize. They've already passed it, but their laws will become effective. 26 states will criminalize those seeking abortion, and many even criminalize contraception. And we know, as you just pointed out, many of those people will be coming to California. So are we fully prepared? No, but we're getting there. Our pro tem, Senator Atkins, has a bill that is extending it already did, but we're extending it further, that nurse practitioners would have the ability to provide the first trimester abortion. So that gives us more medical practitioners who can provide these services. We are shoring up in the budget that we're about to pass funding for our clinics. We are eliminating copays. We're doing lots we've got money for the workforce to build up the workforce within our reproductive health care arena so that we can be prepared. But California cannot cover this for the rest of the nation. We must get Congress to act. But in the meantime, we will provide support for everyone and anyone who gets here.
And our package of bills includes AB 1918, which creates the California Reproductive Healthcare Service Corps in the Department of Healthcare Access and Information, which will be responsible for recruiting, training, and retaining a diverse workforce of healthcare professionals who will be part of the reproductive healthcare team assigned to work in underserved areas. That's being authored by Assemblymember Cody Petrie Norris. We also have a couple of bills that would be creating pilots to increase access at our clinics and our underserved communities as well, both with training and additional resources there in 5 counties across the state. And so we introduced a package of bill in January, expecting that we might be in this position and shoring up access out there. And so while we're not sure what's coming our way, California is going to use all its tools and its toolkit to ensure that we are able to be a beacon of hope and have access for anyone seeking healthcare here in California.
Chair Garcia, if I could, Assemblymember Wilson here, I'd want to make sure we highlight Dr. Weber's Reproductive Health Care Bill, AB 2134, that establishes the California Reproductive Health Equity Fund. And that whole purpose is to provide grant funding to safety net providers of abortion and contraceptive services through the California Reproductive Health Equity Program. And it ensures affordability of and access to abortion and contraception to anyone who seeks care in California, regardless of their ability to pay.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. There's a question here for our Secretary of State, who I see on the Zoom. The question is, can you touch on the requirement for the proposed constitutional amendment, what's required, the percentage required for passing, et cetera? You're muted, Ms. Weber.
Well, I assume it will get out of both houses. It has, you have more than 2/3 obviously signed onto the bill thus far, which is what would be required to get it to the ballot. It will get to, because it is slated to be finished before the deadline, and the deadline can be extended as well. So it should be on the ballot in November. And it will be an opportunity for a constitutional right to abortion in California. So we're looking forward to that. And so that is, you guys have done the work, the preliminary work to basically get it there, thinking ahead of time as to what we need to do to make sure that California has the ability to do that, given the fact that we have no idea what is going to happen at the national level in terms of what restrictions will exist there. Many of you are correct. We're in a fight for our life, and this is only the beginning. The Supreme Court has signaled in so many ways in the last couple of months that they're going to do an awful lot of things that we have fought for the right to have. And we should be prepared to basically do that. But we must also recognize the fact that voting matters, and it shows that it counts. And if this nation is as blue as it says it is with regards to voting rights, we have to make sure that November counts, that we change the essence of this nation with regards to making sure that the Supreme Court does not take us all the way back to 1781, as they just did with the gun laws and the other things, and trying to become the original interpreters. I want to remind Clarence Thomas, who swears so much about 1781, that in 1781, he and his wife would not be a couple. And so we have to be aware of the fact that they are picking and choosing what they want to change. But we're also going to fight to make sure that we do not lose any of our rights. And it should be on the ballot in November. It will be. So I'm pleased to know that the legislature has been the forward-thinking group here to protect us in California. But we must realize that we're part of this nation, and we must protect the nation, because many of us will be traveling to other states, and our children will be going to school in other places, and they should have the right to control their lives in this country.
Chair Garcia, do you want to have someone answer? We have a question from Joe Garofoli regarding about what if Congress were to vote to ban abortions entirely? Would our protections still protect Californians?
Is Ms. Bauer-Kahan on here? No, she's
I am.
about this before.
You want to
Yeah.
answer that, Rebecca?
Sure. It's our position that it is the role of the states to be more protective than the federal government, and we believe that we have the right to protect a woman's access to abortion, and that's exactly why we intend to have the voters enshrined in the Constitution in November. We believe we will maintain the right to protect the right to abortion here in California.
Do we have other questions in the chat?
We had another question from Eileen Alfandri.
Yes, that was regarding what funding is going to be in the budget on all of these to support the various bills, and also, for example, the Reproductive Justice Fund. And there's also a bill that would establish a fund to provide practical support. And what I answered is, as budget chair, I know that, but I don't have the direct details, and we are just finalizing the budget now. It should be in print either later tonight or tomorrow, and I will happily send that information to all the press on our Zoom as soon as I compile it, because I'll have it once it's in print.
Thank you.
This is Senator Kamlager. I guess I'd also like to add that the County of Los Angeles passed an ordinance that will now make it a safe haven for abortion access. And so there's also a bill that will codify that into state law and also provide funding to allow for the construction of safe and secure infrastructure, education, training, and access to abortion care and reproductive health care services. And so the hope is that that can also serve as a playbook and a guidebook for other counties across the state who want to be able to access the funding that we will try to provide through this budget and the additional protections that we're